Hi, friends. Hello, the world. Welcome to this episode of Complaint Free Life. Today, we are going to talk about expectations and expectations 2.0. I named it because I thought that we've been talking a lot about expectations and what they can do to us if they're driven out of fear, and be it expectations from our people in the family, from people in the community, society, in the country, etc., towards us. Or even our own expectations, right? So today, however, I thought I would talk more about expectations coming from other people, or we think they're coming from other people, or our expectation towards others. Basically, everything directed at either from others to us or us to from us to towards others. I've been talking a lot about expectations lately, and not only with my clients, but also with other people that I'm doing some of the joint work together. And I've been thinking a lot about expectations and how we don't seem to not have them. It seems like we always have them. And since we always have them, why not make them amazing ones? Why not have amazing expectations to others? And I will explain how I view it and how we could look at it from a new perspective of expectations. Because expectations can also often be looked at as manual that we have to other people, especially if it comes to family members, if it comes to people in our close relationships. And that's why it's important that we really understand what they are and where they're coming from. And if we don't like them, how we could change to expectations that could actually serve all of us, right? So that's why let us look at it and revolutionize expectation to a different level than we've been having so far. So, in order to do that, I thought we would just glance at what type of expectations we might be usually having towards others, or we think others having toward us. And I've been thinking some of these examples, and of course, these are not the only ones. Probably you will probably come up with your own and many other types of it. But I thought this is a good way to start being aware of these expectations. And then once you're aware of them, then you know that you are having them. So not having expectation, it seems like impossible for human beings. So that's why let us just have a look at what expectations we might be having so far. So, one type of expectation that we often experience from others, or we may be creating, is regret driven, meaning that I regret doing this or not doing this, and therefore I don't want others to do this. So, therefore, trying to prevent them from doing it, or we think that by telling the other person that don't do this, they won't be regretting. But we know that every person has to do their own experience, even though we may tell them that this is how we did it and we regretted it and don't do it. But we cannot expect the other person to be following that, because our regret may not be their regret, right? So that's the one thing. The other thing is that oftentimes we make expectations out of guilt or shame. So, how could this person do this? They should be shamed of themselves for doing it, right? So, it's automatically expectations based on this is not supposed to be happening, but this did, and they should feel shame for it. Now, if you think about it, obviously, unless the other person wants to feel shame or generates that shame, we can't really impose shame on other people. So, so that's why we should also be aware of us expecting things out of fear, out of shame, out of guilt, cannot really make the other person feel those emotions and feelings. The other expectation that we often have is constraint driven, meaning that we want to in one way or another constrain the other person by telling that you cannot do this or you cannot do that, and these are the expectations that we have of what the other person cannot do, and we constrain it that way. And I think a lot of the cultures, especially cultures that I've observed where we are so driven on a community level of co-living, or where communities rules are so prevalent, where constraining becomes more of an part of the tradition or part of a community rule that you can't really escape. So communities may say that this is not how we do things, and this is the constraint that you have to abide by if you want to be part of this community, right? So the other expectation that we have often, and also my family had that, I think, at some point, is the investment type of expectation, meaning that I've raised you, or I've invested in you basically, or I've contributed a lot to your growth, and I expect to get something back, kind of an expectation. And this also may create some sort of burden on the other person if we're imposing it on the other person, be it explicitly or implicitly. And the other one is excelling type, meaning that I used to be great and amazing in doing this, and I expect you to do the same. Probably this often occurs with parents to children, or other way around, that I didn't excel in this, which I really wanted to, but I want you to excel in this, right? So this is the other expectation that we may be imposing to others, or even expressing to others, or we think others are expressing to us. And the other one is a fear-based type, which is that I'm afraid that this person could become a mediocre in whatever way. So therefore, I do everything not to make that happen on behalf of the other person, and therefore keep expecting the other person doing something. But I think in general, many of these expectations are also fear-driven expectations, in a sense of we fear something bad happening to the other person, so we want to help prevent it, or we fear our own emotions of not wanting to experience certain emotions, and therefore we keep expecting the other person to change or wanting to do things for us so that we don't feel those emotions. So as you can see, that there might be a lot of ways to look at it, but I just want us to see what types of expectations that we might be creating as part of a role as a family member, as part of our role as someone in the relationship or in a community, right? So we might be creating these without even realizing it, and expressing it, or even indirectly conveying this message. Or equally, we may be also experiencing these expectations from society members, community members, from our family members, from our partners. And how do we deal with it when we continuously keep experiencing this, or keep interpreting that others might be expecting this from us? So once we are aware of these types of expectations that we have one way or another, then the question is how to deal with it, right? So how to deal with it in a sense that's beneficial in the end, and that does not constrain or, excuse me, limit someone else's life choices. And oftentimes, whenever this happens, I try to explain to people that having expectations may not really be a good recipe for successful relationships in life, simply because other people may choose to always do differently than we do in life. But I think it's very difficult to not have any expectations, as I realize from observing many people that it's difficult to not have any type of expectations from anyone except our own. So I thought that, okay, since it seems like almost an impossible job not to have expectations, how about we turn our expectations into something totally beneficial to everyone? So one of the ways that we could look at is how can we look and how can we transform our expectations to something totally different. And here are the examples of how they could look like, and you could experiment with it and see whether it serves you. So one of the expectations that you could really create is trust-driven expectation, meaning that you trust the other person, the other person's abilities to do and to do the right things and to do the things for themselves, for the relationship in the way that serves both of us. The same way that we would trust ourselves to do the same thing, right? So in other words, when we're building relationship with a partner, with family members, with community members, whoever we want to build relationship with, how about we build it with expectations of equally trusting the other person the way that we trust ourselves, um, so that we respect the other person's abilities of making choices, and knowing that they will deal with, or they will manage to make their own life choices the way they want to. The other one is also similar, but more directed to autonomy of person. So autonomous driven, meaning that we recognize that other people are equally autonomous like we are, and we want them to be making their own decisions just the way that we want our decisions to be made by ourselves. So therefore expecting that as an autonomous human being, they know how to make decisions for themselves, and they know what to expect of themselves, and they know what they're creating for their lives the same way that we do. So that's the expectation that we create. The other one is uniqueness, or celebrating uniqueness. Expectation is meaning that even though I may have all the wonderful expectations of how things should be, yet I can always leave room for unique approaches of the other person. I expect that. I expect that the other person will uniquely approach this than me, because the other person is still the other person and every one of us is very unique. The other one is paving the path driven expectation, meaning that I have paved my path of how to live life, and I'm very confident that the other person will do the same or has been doing the same. And just because our paths are different doesn't mean that our expectation hasn't been fulfilled. It's just that everyone gets to pave their own path, right? So this is the expectation that we have of other people. The other one is also could be a passion driven expectation, meaning that I'm passionate about something, and I know the other person is also passionate about something, and therefore even though my passion may not coincide with the other person, but still I know what it feels like to be passionate about something, right? So equally I know that if the other person is passionate about something, I may not understand why that person is passionate about something, but I know what passionate means. And therefore, I expect the other person to behave in the way that they want to behave, to pursue their passion, just the way we would pursue our passion the way we wanted to. The other one could be expecting that we can't expect anything from others unless they want to satisfy our expectation. And this might be a bit difficult to understand in a sense of, yes, this is normal that we expect this from our family members, right? For instance, I often hear that this is normal that brothers and sisters help each other and be there for each other. And maybe in some cultures it is normal and in some cultures it's not, I don't know. But when it comes down to individuals, expecting that they will be there for you is, I think, is something that is really not going to serve us. So that's why, how can we create this expectation of not expecting? So we don't expect that other people will be there for us, but they can if they want to. So unless they want to be there for me, I don't expect them to be for me. Do you see what I'm saying? The other one is expecting to be wrong about others and everyone knowing what's best for them. And I think this is something that we often think about, that it's a possibility or this is how it should be. Yet when it comes to the daily interactions and relationships, I think we forget about it. So that's why, how can we always keep this expectation intact where we say that I might be wrong about this because my expectation may not coincide with theirs. So therefore, I'm willing to be wrong about this, and they know what's best. The other one is expecting to take responsibility for yourself the same way that others take the responsibility for their own thinking, their own feelings, and their own actions and results in life. Meaning that whatever you are doing may only trigger something in their thinking, but you are not creating their emotions. So therefore, expecting them taking responsibility for their own emotions, whatever that they're creating while being in interaction with you, might be a great start to have that healthy relationships where you respect their thinking the same way you respect your own thinking. You respect your own emotions the way that you respect their emotions, and you don't take responsibility for their emotions. You only take responsibility for your own emotions. So I hope that you could see how we could transform and change our day-to-day or usual expectations of others from being a fear-based expectation to autonomous and trust-based expectations, so that we can create amazing relationships and lives we want, and we let others do the same. Thank you so much. If you have any questions or want to be coached by me, I will be happy to hear your messages and see your messages. And until next Friday, have a wonderful week ahead. Bye.